On the 31st of October last year, I'd had absolutely no sleep the night before. My daughter in her late teens has atopic dermatitis, a skin condition that's very painful, extremely irritating, which you can't escape from. She was panicking because she was having a flare, and I was trying my best to comfort her whilst at the same time sorting out the last minute details of registering with the Philippines immigration website, which for some reason wasn't letting me submit my information. I was stressed, no doubt about it. I was also packing my one flight bag like a game of Tetris to make sure that the little possessions I was taking with me fitted perfectly. Getting ready for my new life abroad with the full support, but also leaving behind the partner I've been with for 20 years, my daughter for almost 17, the family home for 15 years, a health club that I've visited 7 days a week for almost 30 years, and the social element with it. In other words, everything that meant anything to me or made me happy. The woman I'll call the ex-missus, even though we were never married, that had been a godsend to me 20 years prior, had already moved on with someone else and was spending half the time in the family home and half the time elsewhere, which incidentally I was fine with. Over a period of 20 years, you can become very familiar. And when combining familiarity with longevity, even the best of couples find it tough. Although no one had done anything untoward, and we were being very civil and supporting of each other, the time had now come for me to also move on in the form of one giant leap across the world to Asia. I grabbed a quick shower that morning, locked my bag, took one last look around the house, crept upstairs quietly and kissed my daughter on the forehead as she slept. Even though she'd made me promise to wake her up, I just couldn't face saying goodbye to her. I got in the car with the missus, who drove me to the station in about 10 minutes. And I remember on the way there, I looked at her and I said, "Look, this feels wrong. It really feels wrong. I'm losing my family." Now, we were both pretty much close to tearing up, and it was exactly 20 years to the day since we first met. A woman that had come into my life and restored my faith in humanity, a decent, trustworthy, loyal woman with impeccable standards, an incredible mother and partner. Well, we pulled into the car park. I grabbed my bag. We went into the station together, just short of the turnstile where the security guard was, gave each other a hug, wished each other the best. I turned around, and that was it. I went up across the bridge to the other side of the platform, and I'm sat there waiting for my train. I'd been there no more than around 5 to 10 minutes before I was tapped on the shoulder by the ex-missus, who had driven all the way around to the other car park on the other side of the train tracks and managed to sweet-talk a security guard into letting her in just to say a last goodbye. Now, this in itself was the gesture of a decent woman who just wasn't going to casually drive away. My train pulled in. I got on it, sat down by the window, and gave her a thumbs up sign which said, "Thank you for the last 20 years." The train then pulled away, and just like that, I was on my way. Now, I'd spent the last 3, 4 years researching to a level of depth that the CIA would have been impressed by. I dotted the I's and crossed the T's in every single aspect of moving to Asia, specifically the Philippines. I'd rehearsed in my mind as many possibilities and outcomes and scenarios that I could potentially go through, both good and bad. So, in theory, there wasn't going to be much that caught me out. And to be honest, there wasn't. Other than 2 days of brutal travel to get there, everything pretty much went according to plan, from accommodation to immigration. Really, it was as smooth as silk. Now, I'd been obsessive about the details, the little things. That made all the difference. Preparation really is everything. So, really, this should have been something that I was looking forward to. I should have been excited. I should have been chomping at the bit to begin my new life abroad. I should have been fueled with adrenaline for the journey I was embarking on. My money was going to go further. My dating options were about to explode. I was on my way to a far distant, exotic land with paradise islands and palm trees and soft white sands and translucent waters. Except the truth is, I wasn't excited at all. You see, on the plane, all I could think of was what I was leaving behind. Memories of a younger family, my daughter's first steps, first words. Birthday parties with kids running around the place, being able to sit out in the mild English sun during those few days in the summer that make it possible to actually have a barbecue before it starts to rain again. In my view, I viewed it as losing rather than gaining. Since I've been out here, I've heard some horror stories of guys going through nightmare divorces that have lasted for years, drained all the bank accounts, and at the end of it, left everybody with nothing but an enormous lawyer's bill. And that's before the legal jousting starts for visitation rights, custody, and battles fighting over assets, and God only knows what else. When I was a member of a gym in the UK for almost 30 years, over the last 10 or 15 of those, I was at an age where the average guy does go through the marriage, the divorces, running businesses and family, you name it. So when you're all sat there in the steam room, putting the world to rights, you've actually got things in common to talk about. And usually one or more has been through the same thing. Out of a group of around a dozen guys, let's say, for example, 3 of them will be getting divorced. 4 of them will have recently got divorced. 1 or 2 will be getting married for the second time, or 1 or 2 will be starting businesses, and a couple will be going bankrupt. Someone will have been hired and another will have just been fired after 30 years of giving everything he's got to a company that tossed him to one side like he meant nothing, leaving him wondering why the hell he missed the kids' birthdays for those meetings that the superior insisted he attend. Why bothered to stay late at night to get that project done to impress his boss, but at the same time left his missus once again disappointed that he wasn't there to enjoy the meal that she cooked him. What's a man to do? He's just trying to provide the best life that he can for his family, so he makes sacrifices. All of these things are going on in people's lives, from the sudden onset of a serious illness, a loss of a job, meaning the end of a career, and potentially the need to retrain at an age where their CV is automatically overlooked, like the next door neighbor's bill that's landed in your postbox by mistake. Maybe a bankruptcy, the end of a second marriage, or maybe the kids have flown the nest and you find yourself on your own, and a number of different circumstances that can lead to people at a crossroads in their life where there is a fork in the road, a decision to be made, and the realization that your time on this planet is finite. From the moment that realization is made, something changes on the inside. It's like a key is being turned and opens up a safe, holding possibilities that you may never have considered before. For me personally, I'd very carefully bounced up the possibility of continuing my life in the UK, living the same routine, seeing the same people, doing the same things, sliding through my 50s into my 60s and so on. Now, on the one hand, there's nothing wrong with that. There are billions of us on this planet, and are we really all supposed to be individually living the most amazing life? 90% or more of us quite simply follow the guidelines set by society, the media, the Illuminati, the powers that be, and so on. We do what we're supposed to. We get a career, we get married, we get a house, we have kids, we buy stuff to put in the house. We contribute to keeping the economy going. We get older, we die. That's job done. You've played your part. Except for one thing. Going through the process of what you're supposed to do doesn't always work. It doesn't always turn out as it's supposed to. Sometimes it can end in disaster. A couple of weeks ago, an expat from the UK told me his friend was coming out for a couple of weeks. Would I be interested in joining them for a few games of pool on a Friday night in Pattaya? So I said, okay, sure. No problem. Sounds great. So there we were playing pool, and I made a comment to this guy that millions of men around the world are in various situations for whatever reasons, and they've reached a point in their life where, and their mind, where they hold their hands to the sky and say one thing: God, is this all there is? I went on to say that the average of those men has been through a divorce, or his bank account's been ransacked and he's ended up with very little and is now working through to retirement age, which I think in the UK is now increasing to 67, where a chunk of his paycheck will go on child maintenance before he ever gets to see any of it for trying to start a new life for himself. He's reached the age where his fitness levels may not be what they used to be, and his looks are certainly diminished to the point where he's overlooked like he's invisible. It's been months, years, or even longer since he's had intimacy from anyone that resembled a real partner that made any noticeable difference to his life. Basically, he's nothing more than a tax contributor. And as I described this scenario, this guy turned and he looked at me and he said, "You just described my life to a T." Now, this is the same for men across the world. And basically, he's working all year for that one holiday, that crucial vacation for 2 or 3 weeks where he can come out to Asia, and in this case, Pattaya, Thailand, and go absolutely berserk. He can indulge in everything he wants because out here nobody cares. And then return home like a real man, but feeling like a warrior, where he will, of course, spend the next following year working to do exactly the same thing. There is, of course, an unlimited number of scenarios and circumstances that a man can find himself in at various stages in his life where he turns to the sky. But at some point, when that fork in the road appears, a decision must be made. Either continue on the path that you are or take the direction into the unknown, the place where all the possibilities for a better life exist, a better experience of life, as a potential for a new reality. Now, for most men, whatever their age or stage in their life, you mention the possibility of having their money go further and their dating opportunities explode in a far distant land where there are palm trees and blue skies and white sands and translucent water, together with the lure of exotic women eager for his attention, and it's enough to make even the most disciplined mind go weak at the knees, like it's an aphrodisiac. The message here is quite simple. Come to Asia and get a better life. That's it, pure and simple.